right, for this particular video on exponential functions, we're going to take a look at how do we come up with the equation if I know what the graph is. So I'm given the graph and I need to come up with what the equation is. So looking at this particular example, it says write the equation of the exponential function with parent function f of x is equal to 2 to the x power. So this is going to help me out just to figure out what my base is. And remember that when looking at our graphs, any exponential function will have a horizontal asymptote. So that means that this is the value that it approaches as it goes toward negative infinity in this case. So I can see, helps if I turn the pen on, I can see that I have an asymptote line that goes through, at y equaling negative 2. So if that's my asymptote line, then that means it's taken the graph, because normally the asymptote line is here. Because my regular 2 to the x, it would pass through this point, because if I substitute 0 in, anything to the 0 power is 1. So that's going to be our regular if we pass through. And then just excuse the graph, but just to give you an idea of what it would look like. Of course, it would pass through that point. And here's my rough sketch. Okay, so it's just been moved up to, it would look like this. I would have my asymptote line here. That's not what we have for the graph that we have that we're looking at, though. This is the one that we're looking at. So my asymptote line that would normally have been here has been dropped down to. So then from all of the other work that we've done, we know now that we have to have minus 2 at the end. My advice now is to take a point that is on this graph and use that point to figure out what the leading coefficient would be. Remember, we have the basically f of x is equal to a times whatever the base is. So in this case, 2 x minus h, and then on the outside, plus k. Everything follows from the shifting of left, right, up, down, all the reciprocating or just flipping about the x-axis, flipping about the y-axis. Those are all the same things from all the work that we've done already. The only difference is we're dealing with the x value being in the exponent instead. So now when we look, okay, we know this part at the end. So we know that f of x is equal to a times 2 to the x, because I don't know what h is yet, so I'll just say x minus h. And then, minus, let me erase that, minus 2, because the whole thing has been dropped down to the entire graph. Now I'm going to say not to worry about this plus or minus h. And just for now, just nod and be like, okay, sure, Maine says to forget that, so I'm not going to worry about that right now. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take a point that I know that I can definitely see it. And this one, you might have to zoom in to see where it is, but since I made this question, I know where it is. This point right here. So at the point for x being 0, we are at negative 1. So in other examples, we used a point to figure out what the leading coefficient is, and that's what you're going to do here. So if I substitute 0 in for x, and I put the value for y here, I'm going to get negative 1 is equal to a times 2 to the 0. Remember I said we're going to not worry about minus h. And then subtract 2. 2 to the 0 power is 1. So then that means I have negative 1 is equal to a minus 2 more. Add 2 to both sides, we get that a is 1. So it means our leading coefficient is 1. So if the nice thing with this is a left-right shift, you don't have to worry about, because the easiest way to explain this is that you don't have to worry about the left-right shift, because if I subtract 1 from the value, yes, it's going to move it left or right, but that can actually be taken care of in A. So we're not going to worry about that, and I know this explanation might be a little confusing, but do not worry about whether or not your graph has shifted left or right. Just deal with the fact that I need to know what K is. Has this thing been moved down or up? And I need to know, has this thing been flipped? Because otherwise, if this is now facing the other direction, then I know that I have a negative A in front. Okay. and I have to take that into account. So then I would put the negative a in front, and I would still put whatever values I had for x to give me the y value. So now to rewrite my expression, this is just going to be f of x is equal to, a is 1, so I don't need to write it, 2 to the x minus 2. Okay, so again, we do not worry about the h. We do not deal with it at all. It's actually fine to just be like, yeah, I'm not going to worry about h, so I'm just going to erase it. All right, you're not going to need to do anything with that value. It would be actually captured by this a value if we had to worry about it. So we're not going to. All right. Moving forward, all right, hopefully this helped somewhat in the explanation of dealing with coming out of the graphs. How do I come up with the equation? Again, my name is Robert Main from Charahoe High School. Hopefully this was helpful, and have a great rest of your day.